Welcome, welcome, one and all, to the greatest show. I know, that's Ringling Barnum Bailey Circus. Well, hey, minus the catchy intro. I'm playing with that one, by the way. I'm not actually intending to make that be my intro. Just alleviating the weirdness of getting a video started, although it's not overly weird. It's just conceivably, potentially weird for whoever's watching, that it might come off a little But, yeah, it's growing. It's all growth. Alright, I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears, or Sir Chad Everett Broshears to some. This is the Maturity Project. So here's the thing that I wanted to talk about today. I like to talk about what I see in society, what I see, in just, what I see that's going on with, just people in general, or overall just our society. And here's an interesting perspective on it, and I hope that be what people receive with these videos, is that I'm not trying to come from, this is the right place to live, this is the right way to do something. I try to look for, past, present, and future, and what those consequences are. It's, our past is the soil that our future depends on, but what is grown in the future is not something that you can have the absolute clarity over based off of your past or even your current time present. So here's the thing that I wanted to bring up, is that whenever I take a look at and speak from a specific place, and why I to add credibility and or any kind of substance to my statement, that it's not, there's no necessarily right way of doing anything, because we have a constant turning of the soil. So when we have a historical thing that we'd like to consider, let's say that historical thing is, okay, so for me, I'm for generational, I'm a Gen X. So we have our values that my generation was raised by, and there's overarching values that everybody in Gen X were touch influenced, that go outside of our fundamental or foundational development. So have our development we've had, that for me, my generation, what we actually look for, we were raised to create families and structure families in a way that, have predictable outcomes, trust in colleges and your doctors and things like that. And, there's a lot of fundamental things that make the reality that we would refer to as common sense, and or the place where we would speak from with that credibility in our mind, that of course, so that's stupid, or it's just like this commonality that we were brought up in our generation. It's just the way that we're influenced, and every generation has its own kind of accent, if you will. It has its own foundational value that is similar to the previous, but different to an extent as well, because it is a marked different generation. There will be different exchanges of ideas that guide that difference between the two different generation, or the different generation, not the two difference. There's multiples, but I'm not comparing just two. But we have the marked values that get us to that point. So being able to see the differences between different generations. So with that, it's really, if you are completely honest and you've thought your way through it, it's very challenging to give a right or wrong to a lot of things. Now, there are societal things that we can agree on that exceed generations, and those be things that, like obviously murder is bad and hurting people and things like that are something that our particular country, the United States, doesn't really care for or suggest that we do at a citizen level. Oh, there's a lot of skepticism growing and things like that because of the way that our government has handled its citizens, as well as our role in the world and how we've governed the world. So we've got a lot of things that kind of get into that murk it up a bit. But at the same time, though, I'm really only speaking from the citizenship side and the government to the citizens, and where obviously we have laws and rules that'll prevent us from harming each other. So, and unfortunately, with a lack of maturity, those types of things are highly required. So if we don't have them, unfortunately, especially with the abandonment of family raising, which is a value that I stand behind and I support and I encourage, is that we do have families, even if you're not husband and wife or together intimately. The child is still, or the children are your highest responsibility for future generations. So you have to keep them in that position of high responsibility. And that's values that I was raised on and values that I teach because I see the benefit through the generations. It's not a generational thing. It's not what's the boomers and Gen X, and it's not the greatest generation, the boomers and Gen X, and then millennials. But then millennials start to break that trend, and you do see some of that broken, the millennial trend. But you can associate that with other. There's movements that have affected millennials that did not affect Gen X the same way, and it did not affect the boomers the same way. So we have these things that do make a difference between generations, and that is a major reason why we have these common sense things. Whenever I hear somebody say, "Hey, it's common sense," I immediately go, "Well, it's obviously not." But it's like a scarlet letter you put on somebody when you use that. It's that common sense means they lack some sort of base level of knowledge that they should have, and it's not a flattering statement. It's not a desirable thing to be attached to somebody. Now, there are people that are sheltered because their parents don't let them, or whoever their authorities are, do not let them expand their experiences and exposure enough to truly get a depth of knowledge and experience to become more societally adjusted. That's a major thing. That's why I'm such an advocate for exposure to specific things. And when I say specific things, there's definitely things that I do not want exposure to. Pedophilia is one of those things that I do not want my child or any child exposed to. It violates core principles of mine that I absolutely beyond find that detestable. So, but that's a value that also extends beyond generations. It goes through multiple generations. There have been times in history when people have encouraged such behaviors, but I'm not an advocate for that. I've studied it. And not that specifically, but I've studied the generations and the timelines of the Romans and the Greeks and things like that. They did have pro stances in that. But anyway, all that aside, not a fan at all. I'm an advocate against it, and I do what I can to try to support the sanctity of childhood. But that going to the sanctity of childhood has a significant amount of values that are associated with that. Giving children the opportunity to develop in a way that they can become their own autonomous person without having things that are overly influential that could negatively guide their life. So it's a complex conversation that I will eventually start using some visual demonstrations in these videos, so they won't be taking place in the car, obviously. But I will be doing that in the near future just so that I can give a better perspective on it and visual support. So, all right, I don't have much more time. I actually need to get to an appointment. So, but thank you again for joining. I am Chad Everett Broshears, the host, and some refer to me as Sir Chad Everett Broshears. But anyway, until next time. Now, like and subscribe to the channel. Put a comment in the comment section about what you got out of today's video, and share this video with others. That'll help kind of break the ice so that you can start a conversation with somebody that makes a difference. Even if you need to use me as the focal point and not necessarily the most lettering light, if that's necessary, by all means, you broke the ice and that conversation started. So, all right, until next time, this is the Maturity Project. Oh, don't forget, we got a lot to do, which is great because I love doing the work. But we do have a world to address, and we got a world to take care of, but we do have to take care of ourselves first. So, all right, let's get going. See ya.